Hello, hello, and welcome. All right, let me make sure Instagram and Facebook are good to go. And tonight we are doing a little bit of a late night live. I had planned to go live earlier today, but life was lifing and still gotta get it done. So where's the okay? There, trying to find the go live button. So let me know in the chat where you are joining from. And if you are releasing a book this year, drop the name of your book in the chat and what it's about in case anybody here wants to grab a pre-order copy of that book. And or if you just released a book, you can add your link as well. All right, well, not your link, add your book title. So, all right, tonight we are going to be talking about the top four lessons that I learned in 2024 to be able to thrive in 2025. And so if you're an author, if you're a business owner, then I encourage you to tag a friend, let them know that they need to be here. And if you're catching this on replay, then definitely add in the comments #replay. So I'm Ashley, the owner of Chef Publishing, and I help authors get from the page to the people with efficient and effective marketing strategies. And so tonight, I actually have a special announcement about my book that I'll be sharing in a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to just say Happy New Year, first off, and then I want to roll into what we're focusing on. So, hope your year is off to a great start so far, and it is for me. But so let's get started. All right, now, when you are thinking about your goals and your journey as an author, especially in this new year, it can kind of feel like, okay, you want to reflect on the previous year, of course, yes, do that. You want to look at your stats. You want to look at your books sold. You want to look at your pages read, all that good stuff. However, you also want to take a look at some of the things that you're doing that might be hindering your success and or that might be things you could kind of push the pedal to the metal, things that you can accelerate. So with that, that's what I did when I was doing my annual planning. And then I came up with a couple things that I realized actually are going to be the focus for my next year and beyond. And I wanted to share those with you in case you found those to be beneficial as well. So let me know where you are joining from in the world. Thanks, Latrice, for joining over on Instagram. Hey, Cynthia. And hey, Darcel. So the first thing, and I'm using some tech, so hopefully the tech is tech and fingers crossed, prayers up. Okay, perfect. So we're good there. All right, so the first thing that you need to do to thrive in 2025 as an author or business owner is to focus on income to make an impact. And I'm going to explain what this means because it can be so easy to focus on pages read, to focus on books sold, that you really don't take a look and see, okay, what is the income behind that? Because as authors, we know if you are, let me find my comments window so that way if y'all are dropping comments in the chat, I can check them out. That way, if you are focusing on the income that comes behind those things, it is going to help you to prioritize other things. So let me explain what that means. So for example, I was at a conference with Ashley Kirkwood a couple of months ago, and I was a volunteer there. And so one thing she mentioned is that if regardless of if your focus is on income or impact, you really should prioritize the income because you need income in order to make impact. And what does that look like? So if you think about as an author, maybe your goal is to have people to purchase your book so that you can fulfill your goals, or maybe you want people to purchase your book so you can donate, or maybe you are focused on creating a program for a nonprofit. Even if your goal is not necessarily to directly have income from your books, even if it's just a passion project, even if it's just something you're like, I just want to write this book and get it out in front of people, I don't really have to make money from it. You still need income. You still need income to do things. We all know if you're a published author, or if you're in the process of getting published, you understand that it costs money to publish. There's certain things you have to pay for, whether you're doing it by yourself or you're hiring somebody to help you. There's certain things you have to do in order to pay for that book to become a book. And so if you're like, I just want the book out, I just want it done, I don't necessarily care about the income, you still need to have income to get your book out there. And then if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, I work with authors who are looking to use their income to be able to make 4 figures, 5 figures. And if that's the case, you definitely need to focus on income. And so that'll lead me to the next point in just a moment. But with this, I'm noticing that typically authors tend to focus on reaching people. I just want to get people to buy my book. I want to find my readers, things like that. And they don't necessarily prioritize where those readers come from, or they don't necessarily think about, okay, well, if I really want to focus on my people, meaning the people that are your raving fans, who are your diehard folks, your ride or dies, and not literally riding or dying, but your people, then you really want to focus on where you can find those folks, how to get them to buy your book, but also beyond that. Because if you're really just focusing on book sales, then eventually you are either, so not eventually, but you have one or two options. You're either going to have to sell a ton of books in order to replace your 9 to 5 income, which is the goal for some authors that I work with, or you're going to have to sell things that are beyond the book. So sell things outside of your book, meaning not just selling those individual books, because typically as a self-published author, you're making anywhere from $2 on the low end, depending upon what kind of author you are and what kind of book it is, upwards of typically $10, maybe even higher than that, depending upon the book. So for example, my cookbook, I make more than that because it's a higher price point and I ordered it through an offset printer. So I cut my costs, or I was able to spend less on it up front so that I can sell it for more. And so if you're using a print on demand site, then you're getting less than that because you have to pay that site. So if you're paying Amazon, you're paying Ingram Spark, Lulu, things like that, they have to have their cut too. And so it becomes this thing where you are scrounging for pennies, scrounging to try to make this work. And then you kind of are banging your head up against a wall because you're thinking that, okay, well, I mean, I should be doing better than I am. You're working so hard to get those book sales when really you could be working hard to sell things that are outside of your book. So things such as experiences with your book. So for example, if you remember the show Bridgerton, and I don't even know if it still comes out. I don't even know if it's still on right now. But drop a one in the comments if you've heard of that show. It's written by Shonda Rhimes. And yes, written by Shonda Rhimes. And it's something where it just had this global impact. And though that's not a book, it's something that was written. And so the fan base for that community is huge. And the things that they have done is they've created experiences around the show. So, for example, they have watch parties, and they have parties where they dress up in, like, I don't even know what century it's from, but I don't know what century it's from. But if you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. So they dress up, they have like the typical food that's from that place, the typical food that's from that time, and they've created an experience around that show. Now, you can do the same thing with your book, especially if you're a fiction author. You can have your readers or your book buyers create an experience and you can host it. And so it's something where you're able to kind of be with them, whether it's virtual or in person, and they're able to experience your book with you and experience it with the author. And if you don't know, readers they fangirl over authors. Like they are excited to be able to get closer to you as the business owner. And so if you are able to create something around your book, it's something that's even icing on the cake situation for folks. And you can charge for those things. You can charge for your time, you can charge for the creation of it, and it gets you closer to that goal of being able to replace your 9 to 5 income with your book sales, because it's not just your book sales you're focusing on. It's book sales, experiences, other things you might sell with your book. And so that's a fiction example. Let me give an example on the opposite side. So recently, I actually am doing this process with my book. So my book that's coming up, which I'm actually going to announce the title tonight in just a bit. I hosted a 8-week group coaching program. So I took my book and then I broke it up in, I took my book's topic and then I created a course around that topic, and then I coupled that with a group coaching program. So that means that people worked with me for 8 weeks to be able to orchestrate the frameworks, to complete the processes that are inside my book that's coming out in a few weeks. And then they were able to get feedback from me. We met weekly. They had homework that they had to complete, and they were able to work closely with me. And so instead of just selling my pre-order book, I can sell things that are outside of the book but are connected to the book. And then also, of course, those people are going to get a copy of the book as well, just as a part of the package that they purchased. And so with that, it's something that you can use to extend the life of your book so that you are not just focusing on the thing that you're selling of just the book. Because if you're just focused on just the 10, 20, 15, however much your book is, if you're just focusing on that, then you are missing out on additional income that you could be providing for yourself from doing close to the same amount of work. So something to think about. If you've ever done this with your book and you created something that is an extension, then go ahead and drop that in the chat. Or if you need help with that, drop the type of book that you have and I can help you with some suggestions. Now, another reason why you want to focus on income over impact is because it gives you the ability to be able to move beyond the starving artist situation that seems to be very pervasive in the world of authorship, of where people assume that if you're an author, you have to be broke, or people assume that if you're an author, you're not making any money. And I believe in profitable publishing. I believe that you can make money before your book is out. I believe that you're able to reach more readers when you have more income, because then you're able to use that income to pay for ads or to hire help, to hire a virtual assistant, to hire a PA, to be able to pay for your cover designs. There's so many things that you need to cover as an author. And I believe in doing that through pre-orders, which is hence is the topic of my upcoming book. So I'm gonna move to the next point. Hopefully I didn't belabor this one too much, but focusing on income to make an impact is key. Now, as an author, that can feel really weird, and that's something I've had to overcome this year as I'll say former educator at this point. I've been out of the classroom for about 18 months, and I still educate adults. However, coming from that standpoint of thinking, okay, well, I don't want to focus on money, that was tricky for me, because at the end of the day, you need money to be able to do certain things that you want to do as a business owner and as an author. All right, so next point, focus on income. Point number 2 is to prioritize profit. Whoop. Almost got a sneak peek. Maybe you got that, but prioritizing profit. So focusing on income in that case, meaning the gross income. So what you're making before your, before any deductions were made or things like that. And then profit is next. So prioritizing profit makes everything else easier. So when you are an author and a business owner, because if you're an author, you should be treating that as a business. Even if you're doing a sole proprietorship, you should be treating it as a business, because it is business income, and there's all perks and stuff like that that come with it. But if you're an author, then it's important to prioritize profit. And so there's a book I'm going to recommend to you called Profit First, and it's by Mike Michalowicz. I have a little difficulty saying his name, but I've seen him speak at 2 conferences and here in Atlanta, and it's something where it helps you to be able to get a return on your investment faster, and then also prioritize your profit. And so with that, that looks like for every certain amount, so let's say for every $100 you make in your business, if you're within that first bracket, I want to say it's either up to 100,000 or up to 250,000, up to 250,000, then you're going to profit 50% of it, meaning that you're going to keep 50% of it as your income for doing the work that you're doing in your business. And that's really the opposite of what a lot of business gurus teach you. They say, okay, just reinvest in your business. And at some point, you're going to be exhausted reinvesting if you are not also getting something out of it, meaning if you're not getting something monetarily out of it. And that's kind of the premise that Mike preaches or teaches, is that yes, you want to make profit for the business, you want to save money for your book business, you want to be able to reinvest into the book business, but you also need to be able to take some money home, because it needs to be worth something. It is exhausting to work and never take anything out of the income that you're doing when you're spending such long hours building this thing. And so with that, same thing with your book business. When you are focusing on profit first, then it helps to make it possible, because you're able to see the fruits of your labor in your account, and then you're able to get a return on your investment quicker. And so even if you're thinking, oh, I don't necessarily know about how to structure that, he goes through it in great detail. And then also there's resources online. If you're like, I'm not going to read the book, there's resources online you can use. And they've also actually come out with a couple different versions for different industries. So definitely suggest checking that out. But prioritizing profit is something that has helped me to be able to focus on having profitable pre-orders, focusing on having profitable book launches, so that way each time I release a book, I've been able to get paid for that book up front, and also to be able to have extra money left over from that book launch. So instead of going out of my pocket for a long-term period, I've been able to quickly recuperate my costs and or been able to cover the cost entirely. So the bulk print order that I did for my cookbook, at the end, it's been a year now, a little over a year, because it was December of 2023. Now we're in 2025. I gotta remember. It takes me like half the year to remember what year it is. But the book order that I did, it was covered entirely with pre-orders. And so hosting that is something that made it possible for me to be able to even do a book order of, it was 450 books. And had I not had that as an option, then I would have had to focus on just like Amazon KDP. And for full color books, if you're a children's book author or you're a cookbook author, you know that the price point that you have to sell your book at for a color book and at that point is very high, and the income point is very low. And so choosing options that are going to be able to help you focus on profit are key, because then it's going to be something where you have the freedom and the flexibility. You have the ability to be able to get special editions. So, for example, for the cookbook, I was able to get 3 different bindings. So I got spiral, paperback, and hardcover. And on the inside, I was able to do glossy coated paper, so that way when people are cooking, the stuff doesn't smudge. And it gave me wiggle room to be able to do book bundles that I didn't have to come out of pocket for, because I was able to do that pre-order profitably. And so all of this will be covered in my upcoming book. But it just goes to show you that prioritizing profit gives you options. And this looks like beyond just your book launches. So when you're thinking about what kind of software to buy, what kind of things to purchase for your business, prioritizing profit makes it so that you're able to think, okay, if I buy this thing, if I buy this cool software, if I order this thing for my office or whatever the case may be, I always think about, okay, what's the rate of return on this? Is this going to be something that pushes me forward before I sign up for this program, before I download this thing, before I sign up for this ebook? What's the rate of return on this, and how is this going to impact my business? Because it can be so easy to get shiny object syndrome. It can be so easy to think, oh, I need this, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And you're just buying these things that you are not even using. I'm talking to myself. Can't say amen, say ouch. You're buying things you're not even using. You are buying things that you might have already had some similar version of because you haven't taken the time to actually look at the previous items. Or you are buying things that are not aligned with your goals. And so that's one thing that I got really crystal clear on towards the last half of last year, is really looking at the things that I'm focused on. So the 3 to 5 main areas for the year that I really wanted to drill down on, and then seeing, okay, are my purchases for my business aligning with that? Or is this thing just a nice to have that I want to use sometime later? And that can be really tricky. It can be really hard. Like, oh, dang, like I want to get this as a good sale, especially with Black Friday time, things like that. But is this really aligned with what your focus is right now? And if it's not, then you really want to think about, okay, especially if you're using the profit first system, it trims that budget down. It makes it so that, okay, for example, for your expenses, it's only 30% of your income is the expenses if you're making less than $250,000. And with that, it's like, okay, that really doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room to purchase extra things. So it really makes you make hard decisions to think about, okay, what is it that I want to focus on? What am I going to be prioritizing in my income? And do these things align with what my goals are? So for that one, let me get some water. Talking. Let me know if this is making sense to you. Drop a 1 in the chat, and let me, if I can find my chat window. Let me get this. Let's see. Told you I'm using this software, and it pops up, and then it goes away. Let me find it. But the with this prioritizing profit, thinking about profit first, you also want to consider that in order for you to have profit, you have to actively be selling. And this is something that I see with a lot of authors, that they are not actively selling. Okay, let me get my comments. All right, got it. They're not actively selling. They are, hey, Cynthia. Cynthia raised her hand. They're not actively selling. They're just wishing and hoping that someone's going to buy their book. And we can't be doing that. As an author, as a business owner, because if you're an author, you should be a business owner. You can't just assume that people know about your book. You can't just assume that people are suddenly going to buy your book just because you happen to have written it years ago. There are over 4 million books that get released every year. 4 million. Just by self-published authors, not even including traditional published authors. Actually, let me not say that, because that part might be together. But either way, there are 4 million books that are released each year. And you have to decide that you are going to be intentional about sharing your book with the right audiences, not with everybody, because everybody's not your reader, and that's totally fine. And you have to be intentional about selling and being comfortable with marketing. That's another thing I noticed, that a lot of authors are like, I hate marketing. Marketing's too hard for me. I can't figure it out. And some of it, yes, marketing can be challenging. However, it can also be fun once you get it going and once you figure out what it is. And it can also be something that's reaffirming and confirming. So, for example, if you are an author who you find your audience, the right readers and the right audience are going to gas you up. They're going to be excited about your books. They're going to get on your wait list. They're going to join the pre-order process. They're going to be your beta readers. And they're going to give you that confidence that you need to get from book to book. Because being an author and being an entrepreneur could be a little overwhelming. And it can be something where you have to basically boost yourself up consistently. And so finding your right audience is actually a gift to yourself. And it's actually that, and this quote, I'm going to mess up the quote, but it came from Natalie Bullen. She said that marketing is a gift to yourself. So having good marketing means that you are consistently making deposits in your future. And this part's not from Natalie, but you're consistently making deposits in your future for future sales. And so if you are not focused on marketing, you're not focusing on selling your book, then you're not going to be able to be focused on profit, because if you are not selling, then you're not making money and you're not making a profit. So drilling in your head, please focus on profit. Please focus on marketing. And if you need support with marketing, wherever you're watching this, subscribe on YouTube. I'm about 9 subscribers away from 500. And stay tuned, because I do actually have something that I'm working on for 2025 to support authors with marketing to simplify it and make it so it's approachable. So if you want to get on that list, just drop marketing in the comments, and then I'll send you the link so you can get to that in advance. Now, with this, I also want to I also want you to think about framing selling. And so selling is serving, and serving is selling. So if you are selling someone something, you are serving them to fulfill a need that they have. Now, I'm going to use an example from one of my books. So this is my second book, and this is the Daniel Fast 21-Day Food and Faith Journal. And with this book, this has sold over 4,000 copies worldwide. And then I have a matching cookbook that I came out with last year. This was the cookbook I was explaining. And that one, I want to say, is a little under 500. I gotta check my stats. But with that, I say all that to say, both of those books serve specific purposes. There are people who are out there who are looking to do the Daniel fast. Which if you're not aware of it, but it's a faith-based fast that's 21 days. And it helps you to be able to grow closer to God, and also you eat basically a vegan diet, essentially. And so with that, the reason why those books got written is because it was a need that was there. So I was at church, and one of our ushers, Liz, shout out to Liz, she inspired the book, which started out as an email challenge and then became the book. And then people read the book and they were like, why aren't there recipes in the devotional? Because it's a devotional, not a cookbook. So then I came out with a cookbook. Say all that to say, both of those serve a purpose. They have a very specific audience. If you've never heard of that before, that's fine, because there's a very specific audience around the world who every December through February, they purchase it. And it's something where, because the marketing was set up in a way that was successful, and I, of course, give it a little boost when I can, when needed, but set up in a way that it finds those people who need it, then it's serving their need. There's people who are like, I don't know what I'm going to eat on this fast. I don't know what kind of recipes I can trust. I want to grow closer to God, but I'm not exactly sure what to do. I need some structure. And so me selling that book, me sharing that book, fulfills that need. And it's something where, had I not written it, had I not shared it, had I not continuously marketed it for the first year, give or take, then those people would not be served. And so your book is the same. Whether your book is a fiction book, let's say you have a children's book. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we've just gotten into really going to the library and getting books and stuff like that. And the books that we read, they are serving a purpose. They're helping my kids develop a love of reading. They're helping my kids develop confidence. My oldest, he's learning how to read, and so he gets excited when he recognizes words. If you are a book business author, then your book is definitely serving a need. It's serving people who want to elevate in their business. It might be helping them with their branding. It might be helping them with their marketing. It might help them with their public speaking. I have a client who I just finished working with, and she does corporate contracts. And so we helped her book get published. So her book is definitely serving a need for people. So whatever your book is, it serves a need. So if you are not telling people about your book, if you're not finding the right readers, if you're not finding the right audiences, then you are underserving those people. So just want to throw that out there, and we'll move on to the next one. Now, I did do an accidental sneak peek because I advanced too quickly on my slides, but hopefully you didn't see that. So I am sharing my title of my book, and I'll do a separate video about this too to get straight to this point. But you might have been able to tell, or might have been able to see from this live or previous things you've seen from me, the title of my new book. And I'm actually doing a masterclass to show you how I title my books. And so if you're interested in that, add title to the chat and I'll get you the link for that. But the title of my upcoming book is, let's go. All right, Profitable Publishing with Pre-Orders. And so this book is going to show you how to create your own advance as a self-published author during your pre-sale process. Now, this is something that I've done with my authors that I work with one-on-one, authors that I've worked with in the group. So for example, that group coaching program I just mentioned earlier that wrapped up in December. It's something where we went through the process together, and so now I'm actually taking it to book form, and I am making it so that you can grab a copy of the book through pre-order, and I'll put the link in the chat. But it is just Profitable Self-Publishing.com, and you can, and hopefully that's clickable. Let's see, I might have to put the HTTPS in front, but if it's something you're interested in being able to create your own advance as a self-published author, to be able to have the flexibility to publish whenever you would like to be able to understand how book launches work instead of just throwing up a post on Facebook and say, hey, I got a book, y'all, go buy it, but actually taking your readers on a journey, then definitely consider grabbing this. And during the pre-order period, because I am including some bonuses that will be a part of the process. One of them actually just wrapped up today, and it was my private podcast, Poppin' Pre-Sales. And so I walked through the process of how to do my pre-order. So basically walking through the process of my actual pre-order for this book. So it's a very metacognitive, walking you behind the scenes of how I set up this pre-order, from the challenge that I started with back in October, from walking through the course that I did, and really planning and mapping out everything. So that's a bonus that still gets included regardless of when you purchase the book during the pre-order period. So as long as you get it before the book ends up on Amazon or Amazon, then in a couple weeks, then you're good. You'll get that as a bonus. So, all right, let's go to point 3. And then I know folks have already gotten their copy. So if you already got your copy, drop that in the chat while you're watching live or on replay, because I know some people have. So now let's move on to point 3 of lessons from 2024 that I'm taking into 2025. This one is very simple. However, it is to trust yourself. It sounds simple, but it actually can take a little bit more processing and a little bit more, what is the word I'm gonna look for? Not gumption. That's not the word I want. I'm gonna use that for now. But a focus, I guess. Maybe I'll come back to that. But trusting yourself. And earlier this year, I completed the Uncloned Marketing Certification with Audrey Richmond. And shout out to Audrey. She's my mentor now. And one of my mentors, I have multiple. But with that, it was a process where I knew that I really wanted to focus on marketing, and I really wanted to be able to help authors and business owners to succeed in their marketing. And so I knew that, let me get some water, hold on. I knew that I wanted to do both of those things. And in order to do that, I needed to basically get grilled, essentially. Like, if you want to be the best at something, you want to go to the best. You want to work with the best. You want to make sure that you are on par. You want to make sure that you are like there, like, okay, this person approves, and okay, like, I'm good. And not that you only seek the approval from man, obviously, but from a faith-based standpoint, but you at least want to hone your chops to make sure you can what is it? Not compete. Y'all get what I'm saying. Basically, you want to make sure that you're on par with the people that you look up to and the people that are pouring into you, to make sure that you're elevated to that level. And so I knew for me the Uncloned Marketing Certification was going to do that. And so it did. And so now I'm authorized to be able to use the proprietary frameworks and systems that Audrey Richmond uses, and through Uncloned Marketing. So that looks like doing pre-launch assessments for folks, or pre-launch audits for folks, post-launch audits, social media and website audits for folks, and also helping out people, mapping out people's book launches or launches in general for any business. So say all that to say, part of that process was for me to be able to trust that I am good enough and that I'm qualified. And for me, after coming off of job loss, after coming off of like a toxic work environment, after having a baby, because all of that happened within the last 18 months, I found myself just like out of whack and not really understanding who I was in terms of what I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to go in. And even if you just had one of those things, that would just throw you off. So even if you're like in a toxic work environment and your you-ness is being questioned, then it's going to make you second guess yourself. And if you have a child, and it takes a good time to like realign yourself with yourself and like realize who you are as an individual versus like just being a mom, but versus being a mom or being a spouse or being this thing, being whatever's in your job. And so having both of those, and then on top of that, I had a high risk pregnancy. And so you go through this experience, or I went through this experience of like, okay, serving all these other people, doing these things for these other people, making sure I'm like fitting who these people need me to be. But who am I? Like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to show up as? And so through that process, through the marketing certification, this is not part of the program, but it was basically the way that the mentorship worked with me and Audrey, is that one thing she really helped me to understand and stand on is really being myself and trusting that I'm qualified, trusting that I have the capabilities, trusting that I need to realign myself and listen to the Holy Spirit within me, and also listen to my intuition, because I'm spot on. And also not feeling bad about being confident, and not feeling like, oh, like, okay, you gave me a compliment, I need to kind of brush that off. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like, God has given each of you, and He's given me the ability to be able to stand in your greatness. And He's given me in particular the ability to be good at multiple things. And that was also something I had to be okay with, because online, especially, and the quote, jack of all trades, master of none, that's not even the full quote. I don't know if y'all even know that. It's got another part on it that basically is like going back to alluding being able to be good at multiple things. But that part gets cut off. And then if you think about, okay, there are times where you might think, oh, okay, well, I see this person online, they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. And I'm not saying don't focus. Definitely focus. Focus helps you get paid. Focus helps you be able to be known for things. But I am saying that it was important to me to understand and stand in my uniqueness and stand in my ability that, yes, I still love doing Chef Ashley Shep. I still love helping authors with self-publishing. I still have the ability to do other things at the same time, and finding that balance is important. But it's okay for me to like both of those things, and it's okay for me to be great at both of those things, and it's okay for me to own that greatness and be able to pour that into other people, because the way that I am showing up is helping and supporting other people. And when I choose not to show up, and when you choose not to show up, when you choose not to share your book, when you choose not to pitch somebody to be able to have you come and speak, when you choose not to apply for that podcast, then people are being underserved. And so all of that comes from a place of fear, and it comes from a place of doubt. And that's not God's design. That's not what God has for us. That's not what God has for me. I think about the parable of the many talents. Hey, Michelle. I think about the parable of the many talents, and the servant who didn't use their talents and buried it in the ground, they got chastised, because it was like, what are you doing? I gave you all these things. I gave you all these gifts, and you decided not to use any of them. You just buried them to be safe. We're not playing safe no more. We're not playing safe. We don't have time to play safe. We don't have room to play safe. And your playing safe does not serve anybody at all. That's actually a quote from the upcoming book. Your playing safe does not serve anybody. It keeps you confined. It keeps people unaware of what it is that you do. And it makes it so that you are in a bubble and you're not able to really tap into your greatness, because you're hiding it. Why would you hide your greatness? Why would you hide the gifts that God has given you? So I know each of these have ended up with me preaching. That wasn't the goal for tonight, but that's what we're doing. So we're talking about lessons learned from 2024 and how you can use these to thrive in 2025. So the first one we talked about is to focus on income versus impact, because income makes impact possible. Number 2 was talking about prioritizing profit. And then number 3 is talking about trusting yourself. And another thing that I really have started to come back to is being myself and showing up as my full self. Now, this is another thing of where you go through different phases in life, and you're this one person on your job, you're this person in your relationship, you're this person with your kids, you're this person with XYZ. And I just had a birthday. I turned 37. I have to remember, because it takes me a while to remember the age. Anyway, so I just had a birthday, and I feel like I'm grown. Like, I'm like grown up, not like, oh, you're an adult. I'm like a real adult. I'm a real adult now. And not that I was a different person in these different spaces, but I no longer want to show up partially as myself, because then that ends up underserving folks. So, like, let's say, for example, I have one way on Threads, which I act the same way on Threads as I am here. And then maybe with coaching, if I were to act some other way, or like on Instagram or Facebook, whatever the case may be, not saying you can't use different language on different platforms. Like LinkedIn, there's a slightly different language that you might want to use there versus like Facebook or things like that. And obviously professional. I don't mean keeping it professional, but say all that to say, I don't want somebody to find me on one platform and then they end up getting closer to me. They end up getting in like my membership, or they end up getting in my coaching program, or they end up getting in a course, and then they are like, who is this? This is not who I signed up to work with. I want to be consistent across those platforms. And so when you're not exactly sure where you want to center yourself, then it's hard to do that. And so I found that this past year I was working on that to get back to myself and get back to being okay with code switching. Like, this is what it is. It's gonna pop out whatever comes out of my mouth. Standard American English, AAV, whatever it's gonna come, or EV, sorry, whatever it's gonna come out. And so being okay with yourself and being okay to show up as your full self is infinitely more important than trying to copy someone else or trying to emulate the style of someone else, because your people want to see you. They want to see behind the scenes with you. They want to see how you operate in different spaces. They want to see how you act. And there's actually, I have to repost it, but there's actually a book talker, like Instagram, like TikTok, but book talk. And she's hysterical. I just found her last week, but she does posts of people who I don't want book recommendations from. And the one I saw was people who buy McRibs. She said, if you're keeping McRibs in business and you keep asking for them to come back, I don't want book talk recommendations from you. And it was like funny. She was being silly about it. And she called McRibs like dinosaur ankles or something like that. But it was just so specific and so random and so silly. And I saw her other videos and they were along that style. And she is attracting her people because she's being her real self. And so when you are your real self, your readers will find you. When you are your real self, your clients will find you and they'll like you and they'll love you. And so you don't have to worry about trying to focus on someone else's audience. You don't have to worry about, oh, well, this person's got this many followers. This person's doing XYZ. Focus on you, stay in your lane, trust yourself, and be you. All right, last one for tonight. Let me know if this is helpful for you. Drop a 2 in the chat, in the comments. So the last one is to work with a professional. Now, this isn't necessarily a lesson that I didn't already know, because I've invested in myself over the years that I've been in business, since about 2017. I have typically made anywhere from definitely four to sometimes a 5-figure investment in myself for the year. And I do that because there's always going to be something that I either don't know, or something that I need to learn, or something that I need to focus on. And over time, things also change. And so investing with a pro is always so important, because there's going to be certain things that person knows that you don't. There's going to be certain things that person might pull out of you that you might not have even thought of before. And it's going to open your eyes, because you are only really focused on yourself in terms of intrinsically and seeing yourself the way you see yourself. But when I work with my coaching clients, there are so many things that they don't see in themselves just by them talking and them saying things that I can hear, because either the Holy Spirit has dropped it on my heart to say it to them, or I'm listening to them, because we do audios mostly. But things that they are just pouring out that they're not actually aware that they're saying, that end up becoming entire products or services, or they end up becoming a whole book that they've created. And so I'm going to tell you a story about this and give a shout out to a pro that I recently invested in, and that's Dakota Davis of the Creators Law Firm. And so she's a faith-based lawyer out of North Carolina. And I have been following her for years and love her style and things of that sort. And so if you don't already follow her, her handles are The Creators Lawyer. I'm sorry, yeah, The Creators Lawyer. That's her handle. So over on Instagram. And then she's here on Facebook, or she's on Facebook too, and all the other platforms. Anyway, so say all that to say, I am in the process of getting a trademark done. And I said, okay, I want to work with her, because I was looking at the route to do it by myself, which people do. And I'm not saying I'll never do it by myself, but the amount of value that happened whenever we had our VIP call to start my process was immense, immaculate. Like, had I not had that call with her, there are certain things that I would have missed out on. There are certain things that I wouldn't have even known were a good option for what I'm trying to do with my trademark. And there's also certain things that she was aware of that are not necessarily things you would just be able to Google, because I love YouTube. I'm almost at 500 subscribers on YouTube, so if you don't follow over there, definitely check me out over there and subscribe. But there's only so much you can find out from YouTube University. Like, point blank period. There's only so much you can ask ChatGPT, Claude, all them. There's only so much you can ask them till they get to a point where it's like, one, you don't know what to ask because this is not your area of expertise. Two, the advice that's given, like, you got to be really careful with that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of people giving advice, especially in the author world. There are a lot of people giving advice, and there's a lot of people giving bad advice in the author world. And when it comes to certain things like legal, you want to talk to somebody. You don't want to just leave that to your own devices. And so with her, she has a 98.5% acceptance rate with the trademark office, and she's done over 1,400 trademarks. And so I knew that I was in good hands with her, and I've been following her for years and trust her. And so through our conversation, she helped me to think about other future products and services that I might want to offer in alignment with my trademark that I'm filing, or that she's filing. And then we also were able to make sure I didn't miss one of the classes, because you have to file per class, meaning like, for example, online learning as a class, and then like print books and stuff like that. So there's additional classes that I hadn't thought about that by talking with her, I was able to add that into the trademark, which was helpful because then if I tried to do it later, I would have had to do a whole another trademark. And so that would be more money, more time, things like that. And then also just the advice and the advisory of how to use it moving forward. And so sometimes it's just better to work with someone who is a professional, to work with somebody who knows what you're trying to do and who isn't going to give you a hypothetical, essentially. So working with somebody, hiring a coach, hiring someone who is in that field and in that industry, it is key to do that, because if you don't, then you're kind of left to your own devices in terms of, okay, well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should publish on this platform. Maybe I should get this ISBN, or maybe I should do this. And when I work with my clients, specifically in coaching or any of my programs, but specifically in coaching, it's tailored to the person. It's tailored to what that person needs. And it's also coming from a place of, when you're like in the house, Chef Publishing House, when you're in the house, your family, like even beyond that, even if you're not a client anymore, if I see something that aligns with you, I'm going to send it to you. Like I have coaching clients, I have publishing clients, I have marketing clients who I haven't worked with for years. And then I see something, I'm like, oh, you should sign up for this. You should apply for this, because that's just how I roll. And so if you are looking for coaching and you're needing some support for either your publishing or your marketing, then drop coaching in the chat and I'll send you the link to get started with that. And then if you're like, I just need done for you services, I don't want to do all the nitty gritty, but I want to be a part of the process, then we do offer done for you publishing and done for you marketing. So those are both options as well. All right. So, and I didn't ask for questions earlier. Goodness. Let me see. If you had any questions, drop those in the chat. And I want to go back and actually double check and make sure I said everything I needed to say. Got a sticky note. Make sure I don't forget anything, because mommy brain is real. Okay, so that is all I have for you tonight. Once again, if you have not pre-ordered your copy of my upcoming book, I can officially give the title and use it and all the good stuff. I have been using it behind the scenes, but officially give the title Profitable Publishing with Pre-Orders. And this will show you how to create your own advance as an author, as a self-published author, to be able to pay for your publishing costs, to be able to be profitable, and to be able to really release books whenever you would like to, at the speed and cadence you would like to, because it'll help you to cover that editing, which is typically the most expensive part of publishing. It'll help you to cover those cover designs, and actually it will show you how to build your audience, to generate sales, and to be able to have a following, create those raving fans, so that way they are more than ready to buy your book before it is out. So, all right, let me check the chat and make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, check over here. All right, I think we are good. So I pray that you have a prosperous 2025. Let me remind you of the 4 tips that I gave you as a recap. Number 1, focus on income, because income will help you to make an impact. Number 2, prioritize profit. So not just making that money, but actually understanding your gross, your net, just like you check your 9-to-5 check and making sure the right stuff is taken out, the right stuff's not taken out. Check and see what your expenses are, so that way you're able to prioritize profit. And then 3, trust yourself. You are qualified. You have the abilities to be able to serve your reader and serve your audience as well. Lean into that and remember who you are. And then number 4, work with a pro. And if I'm the pro that you would like to work with, then feel free to shoot me a DM, or just drop what you'd like to discuss in the chat, and then I'll be more than happy to serve you. Have a good one. Thanks so much for tuning in.